Okay, so get this, right? There's this fan theory, and it's claiming that Adrien Agreste, from Miraculous Ladybug, is
Yeah.
like the same person as Shinji Ikari from Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Wow.
Yeah, wild, right?
That's quite a claim.
And we're diving deep into this one today. Not because we think it's actually true, but because, well, unpacking it takes us through some pretty wild territory.
Oh, I bet.
We're talking symbolism, we're talking psychology, maybe even like a little dash of conspiracy theory for good measure.
It sounds like a fascinating rabbit hole to go down. It's amazing how these theories can really dig into the characters and their worlds, Like,
Uh-huh.
they suggest there might be more to these stories than meets the eye.
Exactly. And it goes way beyond just saying, hey, they kind of look alike, sad eyes, messy blonde hair, the whole brooding thing.
Right, right.
So for anyone out there who hasn't seen one or both of these shows, super quick rundown, Evangelion.
Mm.
Well, it's a pretty intense anime. We're talking giant robots, monsters called angels, but also like a lot of deep dives into, depression, isolation, what it means to be a teenager with like the weight of the world on your shoulders, and that teenager being Shinji.
Yeah, Evangelion doesn't shy away from those heavy themes.
Not at all.
Yeah,
And then you've got Miraculous Ladybug, which is, well, it's definitely more on the lighthearted side.
for sure.
It's set in Paris. We've got Marinette, our main character, who transforms into the superhero Ladybug.
Mhm.
And she teams up with Cat Noir, who, spoiler alert, is actually her classmate, Adrien.
Classic superhero secret identity trope.
Totally. And they fight these villains called Akumas, which are basically everyday people who get turned bad by, like, negative emotions.
So akumatized, you could say.
Exactly. So, like, how do these two shows even connect, right?
Seems like a stretch.
Right. Well, this theory says that Adrian's existence is actually Shinji's mind, like trying to cope with all that Evangelion trauma. It's like his psyche split itself, creating this this less intense reality where he could just, be a normal-ish teenager who happens to be a superhero on the side.
It's like his subconscious created a world where he could process all that heavy stuff from Evangelion in a safer, more symbolic way.
Yeah, like a psychological safe space.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most compelling aspects of this theory. It suggests that Miraculous Ladybug, with its, bright colors and magical girl elements, is a kind of counterbalance to the darkness of Evangelion.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit.
Mm.
One of the biggest points this theory makes is about how Cat Noir transforming is kind of like Shinji getting into his EV Unit 01.
Interesting parallel.
Right.
Huh?
Like both of them involve this merging with this powerful entity to fight.
It's a common theme in these types of stories. The hero merging with the source of power to overcome challenges.
But the theory's saying it's more than that, right? It's also about them, like battling their inner demons.
So the merging isn't just physical, it's symbolic of something deeper going on inside them.
Exactly. It's like the merging is a visual representation of their internal struggles, their psychological transformations.
I see. So it's a way of externalizing those internal conflicts.
Exactly. So
Right.
take the Cat Noir transformation. It's not just cool superhero stuff,
Right, right.
The theory's arguing that it mirrors what Shinji goes through psychologically when he synchronizes with the Eva. He's becoming one with this incredibly powerful being, but it's also like destructive, uncontrollable at times.
So there are parallels there, both in the act of merging and the potential consequences.
And I think it's interesting to consider that, they're both in a way putting on a mask.
Literally and figuratively.
Right. And it's not just to hide their identity, but also to face something that they feel is too much to handle otherwise.
It's a way of coping, of protecting themselves.
I mean, think about it, right? Haven't we all felt like we've had to become a different version of ourselves to deal with a challenge or a difficult situation?
Absolutely. I think it speaks to a universal experience, this idea that we adopt different personas to navigate the world. It's not always about deception. Sometimes it's about, like you said, survival, or even just fitting in.
Okay, but here's where things get even more intriguing. The theory doesn't just focus on the protagonists,
Oh.
It points out that both Adrien's dad, Gabriel Agreste, and Shinji's dad, Gendo Ikari, well, let's just say neither of them is winning any World's Best Dad awards anytime soon.
That's putting it mildly.
Right. They're both depicted as cold, manipulative, obsessed with bringing their wives back from the dead, even if it means using their sons as, pawns in their schemes.
It's a recurring theme in these narratives. The flawed, often absent or emotionally distant father figure.
And it makes you wonder, even if you're not buying this whole same person idea, That parallel is pretty hard to ignore, right?
It's a striking similarity.
It really makes you think about what the creators are trying to say here about fatherhood, about legacy, about the impact, even potentially harmful, that parents can have on their children.
It raises an important question. Are these fathers meant to be like symbols of broader societal pressures or just genuinely bad dads? Or maybe a bit of both?
It's a great question. And it's something that I think a lot of viewers grapple with. But moving on to another point, this theory proposes something even wilder, that the miraculous jewels, the ones that give Ladybug and Cat Noir their powers, they might actually be like repurposed tech from the Evangelion universe.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, like the same stuff that powers those giant Evas. Crazy, right?
That's quite a leap.
I know. It's like connecting magic and science fiction in this really unexpected way.
So it's suggesting a shared origin for these seemingly disparate worlds.
Exactly. And this is where the theory links the fantastical elements of Miraculous Ladybug to the sci-fi world of Evangelion. It's like it's suggesting that there's this shared origin, potentially even extraterrestrial, for both the magic and the technology in these shows.
It's like finding out your favorite childhood fairy tale has this secret sci-fi backstory.
I know, right? It completely changes how you see things. Like suddenly those magical jewels aren't just, whimsical artifacts. They're potentially remnants of some advanced ancient civilization. Or alien tech, who knows?
It definitely adds another layer of intrigue. It encourages us to look beyond the surface, to consider the possibility of deeper connections and hidden layers of meaning.
Okay, so we've got the main characters, we've got the dads. What about the moms?
Ah, yes, the mothers. They play such crucial roles in both stories.
And this theory doesn't disappoint. Get this. It says that Emily Agreste, Adrien's mom, is in a coma, and Yui Ikari, Shinji's mom, whose soul is like trapped inside an Eva. Wait for it. They're supposed to be the same person.
Whoa, okay, that's a big one.
It's mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
And this shared identity is like key to the whole theory because it becomes the driving force behind both fathers' actions.
They're both fixated on bringing them back, but if they're the same person, that adds a whole new dimension to their motivations.
Right. Like, are they trying to, I don't know, merge realities or something?
It's a possibility.
But regardless of the specifics, their sons are like caught in the middle of it all, right? They're dealing with the fallout of their parents' obsessions.
It's a classic tragedy, really. The children bearing the weight of their parents' pasts.
And it makes you think, how much of our own lives are shaped by our parents' pasts, even if we're not even fully aware of it?
That's a profound question. It suggests a level of interconnectedness that we might not always acknowledge.
Are we all just playing out variations of our parents' stories? It's kind of a heavy thought.
It is. And it challenges the notion of individual agency. Maybe we're not as in control of our destinies as we like to believe.
Okay, so we've got these parallel characters, these mind-bending connections. But this theory goes even further. It suggests that both Miraculous Ladybug and Evangelion, despite their different tones and genres, might actually be commentaries on real-world attempts at mind control.
Mind control. Now that's a twist.
I know, right? It's like, are Ladybug and Cat Noir fighting Akumas and Shinji battling angels? Is that all just a metaphor for something bigger, darker?
That's a fascinating interpretation.
So you're saying that these seemingly fantastical battles are actually symbolic of real-world attempts to manipulate and control people's thoughts and actions?
That's what the theory is proposing. It argues that both Adrien and Shinji are under this immense psychological pressure, constantly being pushed and manipulated by external forces.
It's like they're both caught in these systems that are trying to control them, whether it's, Hawkmoth akumatizing people or NRV sending Shinji into battle. And it makes you think about, how much control we really have over our own lives. Like, are we truly in control of our thoughts and actions, or are we being influenced in ways that we don't even realize?
It's a question worth pondering, especially in today's world where we're bombarded with information and, targeted advertising. It's easy to feel like we're being manipulated, even if we're not fully aware of it.
Okay, you've officially blown my mind.
It's a lot to take in.
But let's talk about the symbolism for a minute, because that's where this theory gets really wild.
Yeah.
We're talking like black cats, ladybug spots, even Kabbalah.
Kabbalah. Wow, they're really going deep with this.
Right. It's like, how do you even connect those dots?
Well, the theory argues that these seemingly random symbols are actually clues left by the creators pointing towards this deeper connection between the two shows.
It's like they're trying to tell us something.
A hidden message.
But what?
That's the million-dollar question. So welcome back to our deep dive into this mind-bending theory.
I feel like we need a whiteboard and some string to connect all these ideas.
Last time we were trying to unravel this theory that connects Adrien Agreste from, the lighthearted Miraculous Ladybug and Shinji Ikari from, well, the very intense Neon Genesis Evangelion.
My head's still spinning from all the symbolism and, psychological parallels.
We covered a lot. The characters, their dads, the whole shared identity thing with their moms. But there's one piece of this puzzle that's, well, particularly intriguing.
Okay, lay it on me. What is it?
Remember how we talked about the fathers, both Gabriel Agreste and Gendo Ikari, and their obsession with resurrecting their wives?
Yeah, it's hard to forget that detail.
Well, this theory suggests that their ultimate goal, it goes way beyond just bringing back their wives, It suggests they might be striving for something much, much grander and, honestly, kind of terrifying.
Okay, now you've got me really curious. Tell me more.
The theory proposes that both Gabriel and Gendo, they're both working towards a goal that mirrors the concept of instrumentality from Evangelion.
Instrumentality. That sounds ominous.
It is.
I'll admit, I'm not super up on all the Evangelion lore. Could you, break that down for me?
Sure. So instrumentality, it's a core concept in Neon Genesis Evangelion. And it's essentially this complex process that involves merging all human souls into a single unified consciousness. No more me, no more you, just one collective us.
Whoa, okay, that's heavy stuff.
It is.
So no more individuality, everyone just becomes part of this giant collective mind.
Precisely.
And the theory is suggesting that Gabriel and Yenim, they both might be trying to pull off instrumentality in their respective worlds.
That's what it's implying, yeah.
But, what would be the point of merging everyone into one giant consciousness?
Well, the theory offers a few possible interpretations. Some say maybe they believe it would, eliminate suffering, create a utopia where there's no more conflict, no more pain. Or maybe they see it as a way to transcend the limitations of individual existence to achieve a higher state of being, something like that.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
It's a lot.
The idea of, eliminating suffering, it's appealing,
Yeah.
right? But losing your individuality, your unique experiences and memories, that's pretty scary.
It is. It really raises some fundamental questions about free will, the nature of consciousness, what it truly means to be human,
Big questions. But how does all this tie back to Adrien and Shinji specifically?
Remember, this theory suggests that Adrien's existence is essentially a coping mechanism for Shinji, a way for his psyche to escape all that trauma from Evangelion and create a world that's, a little more manageable.
Right, like a psychological safe space?
Yeah, exactly. But if both their dads are working towards this instrumentality thing, that could have some pretty serious consequences for both Adrien and Shinji, right?
So Adrien's world, which is supposedly a product of Shinji's mind, it could be, destroyed, along with Adrien himself.
That's one interpretation.
That's even darker than some of the stuff that actually happens in Evangelion.
It's a pretty bleak possibility.
It really makes you think about how fragile our sense of self is, how easily it could be shattered by trauma or manipulation.
It taps into a very real fear, that's for sure. The fear of losing ourselves or individuality in a world that's becoming increasingly, homogenous.
Okay, so we've got these two dads potentially about to trigger this universe-altering event. We've got the moms, who might be the same person, caught in the middle of all this. And then we've got Adrien and Shinji, who, according to this theory, are like two sides of the same coin.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. It's making me question everything I thought I knew about these shows.
And that's what makes these deep dives so fascinating, isn't it?
I'm starting to realize that it's not just about proving or disproving a theory. It's about, exploring the possibilities, the what-ifs that make us question our assumptions and see things in a new light.
Exactly. It's about embracing the complexity, the ambiguity, the questions that these stories raise.
And this theory definitely raises a lot of questions. If Adrien's existence is tied to Shinji's mental state, what happens if Shinji overcomes his trauma in Evangelion? Does Adrien just poof, cease to exist?
That's a fascinating question. It suggests that Adrien's fate is somehow intertwined with Shinji's journey of healing and self-discovery.
So maybe if Shinji finds a way to, become whole, to reconcile with his past, maybe Adrien wouldn't have to disappear. Maybe he could evolve, become more independent.
It's a more hopeful interpretation.
I like it. It gives me something to, like, root for.
Mhm.
Even if we don't have all the answers, this theory has given me so much to think about. It's made me look at both shows and storytelling in general with a fresh perspective.
And that, I believe, is the power of a good fan theory. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about sparking curiosity, encouraging critical thinking, opening up these new avenues of exploration.
Well said. But speaking of exploration, there's one more layer to this theory we haven't fully unpacked yet. Those recurring symbols. We touched on them earlier, but, well, there's more to uncover.
There's always more to uncover.
Okay, so back again for round 3 of this Adrien Shinji theory deep dive. And my brain is, like, officially fried.
It's a lot to process.
Last we left off, you were saying, right, that there might be, like, way more to those symbols in both shows than meets the eye. Like, they're not just random pretty details.
It's a common thought with these kinds of theories.
Totally. So what are we thinking? What kind of connections are we talking about here?
Well, one of the, I think, most interesting links this theory makes is between, the Kwamis, like those cute little creatures that give powers in Miraculous, and then you've got the souls that are trapped inside the Evas in Evangelion. On the surface, they're completely different, right?
Yeah, like adorable, helpful beings versus tormented souls powering giant, like, world-ending weapons.
Exactly. Big difference in vibes.
But the theory says there's a common thread there.
It argues that both of them represent, like, different sides of the human soul itself.
Whoa.
Yeah. So the Kwamis are like this positive energy, this guidance, the potential for good that we all have.
Right.
And then the souls trapped in the Evas, they're more about the suffering, the destructive side of human nature.
It's like two sides of the same coin, kind of.
Exactly.
That actually makes a lot of sense now that you say it that way. Because both shows are about these teenagers who suddenly get all this power dumped on them and then have to figure out, like, how to use it, for good or for bad.
Exactly. It's a common coming-of-age theme. We all have that potential within us.
Okay, chills officially running down my spine. But what about those big, structures, the Eiffel Tower in Paris and Central Dogma from Evangelion? What's the symbolic connection there?
Well, they're both very visually striking landmarks, right? You've got the Eiffel Tower.
Super romantic.
Yeah, a symbol of love and art and all things Parisian. It stands tall in Miraculous Ladybug. And then you've got Central Dogma, this technological marvel. It represents the kind of the heart of NRV, which is like the organization that built the Evas in Evangelion.
So they're more than just, backgrounds.
Right. The theory suggests that these are focal points, like places of convergence where reality as we know it kind of breaks down a little bit.
Like gateways to different dimensions?
Maybe. Or levels of reality that we don't usually perceive.
Okay, hold up. So Miraculous and Evangelion could be connected on, like, a whole nother level.
The theory suggests that possibility.
My mind's, like, officially blown. All right, so after this whole deep dive, where are we at? Are we buying into this whole Adrien as Shinji instrumentality mind blow thing, or is this just a fun thought experiment?
I think, and this is true for most good theories, the beauty's in the journey, It's not about being right or wrong. It's about the process of questioning, connecting these dots in ways you never thought of before.
It's true. Like, we've been on this mental scavenger hunt, trying to piece together this puzzle that might not even have a complete picture at the end. But the search itself has been amazing.
Absolutely.
And it's made me look at these shows and, I don't know, storytelling in general in a completely new way.
And I think that's a fantastic takeaway. It really highlights how powerful, stories can be. These shows, they might seem like just entertainment on the surface, but they spark these really complex discussions and lead us down these unexpected paths of inquiry.
And honestly, it makes you realize that, you shouldn't underestimate these genre stories, right? Like magical girl shows, mecha anime. There can be so much depth hiding underneath.
It's all about looking for it.
So to our amazing listeners, what are your thoughts? Do these connections click for you? Are you going to go back and rewatch, like, Miraculous and Evangelion with a whole new perspective now? Let us know.
Because the best part about deep dives like this is they spark that curiosity, that desire to learn more, to dig deeper, to really try to find meaning in the stories that we love.
And who knows, maybe while we're, exploring these theories, we'll discover something new about ourselves and about the world around us.
It's a possibility.
Here's a final thought for you to ponder. Even if we don't take this theory as literal fact, the fact that so many people are seeing these connections between these two shows, it seems so different on the surface, it makes you wonder, right?
It does.
What does that say about the kinds of stories we're, like, drawn to as humans?
Maybe we're all searching for those connections, for those patterns that link our experiences together and give them meaning.
Or maybe, just maybe, we're all just searching for our own personal Adrien in a world that sometimes feels a lot like Evangelion.
That's a thought-provoking idea.
Thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Until next time, keep those minds curious, and we'll see you on the next Deep Dive.